Welcome to the Sacred Feminine Connection podcast, founded by me, Ann Reynolds, with a twofold mission, which is to reweave the red thread of sisterhood among women around the world and restore the sacred connection between the feminine and masculine that thrived in ancient times but was lost and forgotten. At this time, this podcast airs every second Monday of the month on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Today's episode is entitled Serving Love Together. Our guest speakers today are husband and wife Andrew Oser and Alex McIntyre, who have a combined 100 plus years of teaching meditation and guiding groups and individuals in transformational experiences. They have been co-leading retreats on Mount Shasta since 2019. They both offer spiritual life coaching and sacred site tours. So welcome, Alex and Andrew. I am so honored to have both of you present today. It's a pleasure to have you here together.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Anne. Thank you for asking us.
Appreciate the chance to chat with you, Anne.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm really excited to have both of you and to learn a little bit more about what you do and just for this conversation to unfold. And I had and also just bringing in Mount Shasta, because there's something about Mount Shasta, which I would probably say later, but I'm just like giving like a little bit of a prelude to what's going to happen in this conversation, because Mount Shasta is in California and we're both in California right now, which is so special. But in order to really understand the energy of Mount Shasta, I would say that it is going to come out in this conversation today. And so let me start by asking, so how did the sacred call out to you for the first time in your lives?
So for me, it was back in the early 70s, and I was driving the freeway in San Francisco, and literally out of the corner of my eye, I saw the word meditation on a billboard. And I had a visceral reaction inside that car. It's like I just had this huge breath and I went, oh, and there was an inner recognition that I needed to meditate. And I immediately started looking around for how to do that, because it wasn't so prominent in the culture at the time. And that has been the beginning of an extraordinary journey. So that was the first moment of really feeling taken for me.
Yeah, I think for me, my first moment was really on the tennis court after my junior year of college. And I read a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. That was all about being in the present, being in the peak experience as possible when you come all the way into the present. I experienced that. And it was so life-changing that when I graduated from Princeton a year later, rather than gone to law school, which I've been planning, I went to California and dedicated myself to spiritual awakening. And 2 years after that, I came to Mount Shasta for the first time and just fell in love with the mountain. And that was 78. And I didn't live here till 2006, but all those years I came back here at least once a year, sometimes multiple times, and just really immersed myself in the energy. To me, Mount Shasta, from the beginning, has always been God. And I know, God is everywhere, of course, in everything. And for some reason, there just seems to be an amplified presence of God in the mountain that calls not just me, but people from all over the world to come home.
And for me, I came up to study with a spiritual teacher, and this was in the late 80s. And I just kept coming back every year, and eventually bought property here, and finally moved here full time 7 years ago. And always drawn by the energy of the sacred that's very prevalent here, because we have this mountain, this sacred mountain, and it anchors that presence of divine grace for me and for lots of others.
Beautiful. I would definitely say that I would agree with both of you in terms of what you just said about Mount Shasta. And I would say the what really made a difference for me was the experience of it. And interestingly enough, I heard the first time I heard Mount Shasta was from my sister. My sister said, "Oh, I went to Mount Shasta over the weekend." I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." It didn't ring anything true for me at the time. I was very, very young, really in my early 20s. And then it was just probably like last year that I met someone, and I was in southern France, and there was something about the land that was very special. And then I asked this person, it's like, well, where can I get, something similar, like this kind of experience? And then he told me Mount Shasta. And I'm like, oh, but isn't that in California? He goes, yes, it is. And I was like, oh my God, I've lived in California like all my life and I haven't even gone to it. So then I did some research, and then I looked up and I found Andrew. And then so I saw the 11:11, and I was trying to go to that one, but that one didn't work out. But then I did come. So I did come on the winter solstice. And that was really, really, really like a really special experience that, I'd love to, like just get to know more about like how that like just came about. Cause it was, how would you say it? It was like an I am that, that there was this resonance from the heart that just echoed with the energy of the mountain. That's what it felt like. I set an intention, like Andrew said, and all my intentions were answered within 5 hours. And we went to the sacred sites on top of the mountain. And I just had double the blessing because it was raining. And so there was the shower of love came down on me. And it was just a really special experience. And that's why I was so inspired. And so I asked Andrew before the end, it's like, oh, would you be a guest on my podcast? And he graciously agreed. And then he talked a lot about you, Alex, during the retreat. So I can't wait to experience what it really actually would be like to have both of you together. And so now I'm getting like a little bit of a taste of it. And it's so beautiful already to see your dynamic together, and, how you just come together, and how you go back and forth between each other with such a beautiful dynamic.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And a long time ago, I heard this couple sing a song together, singing back and forth. And it was a really beautiful, awake song. And the song was like a transmission of grace from God. And I just love the way it was with the male and the female, just in mutual surrender and flow and appreciation. And, that made a huge impression on me. And then when I met Alex, just seemed like just naturally that flow happens with us.
Yeah, it's been such a journey, such an unexpected journey. For me, when I came here, I moved here to be part of a sangha that Andrew was a part of, and that's how we met. But I had been single for 14 years, and I just figured, well, must not be meant for me to find the right one. And I was okay with that. And then he asked me to co-lead his meditations with him, and I just instantly felt like, okay, this is really leading to something. And I also felt, so I'd had the inspiration for heartoftheworld.com, I also felt it was the beginning of that inspiration that had come to me here in Mount Shasta to offer this platform that promoted programs for profound peace and healing. And I just instantly felt like he was in support of that, and this was supposed to happen. And this was, our working together was meant to be. And this was the beginning of that rolling out and that emanation and transmission of Heart of the World for the world.
Beautiful. That's so wonderful to know. So I heard from Alex. So Alex, did I hear you correctly that you met Andrew in Mount Shasta? Is that right?
I did, yeah.
You did. Okay. All right. Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to add to that, Andrew? And I guess another question that is coming up for me is, so did your Well, from what Alex has said, it sounds like, you were just it was the right place at the right time. And, both of your purposes just like linked together, like they were the perfect fit. And then is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
Sure. Alex often tells this story during our retreats. I guess I'll tell it. You'd probably tell it better, but the story basically she read about a guy's near-death experience,
Oh,
and his conclusion from the experience is, I just want to live as a vessel for love. And Alex made that same commitment. And I'd use different words, but I'd honestly just given my life to God when I was 22, and and that my whole life has just flowed from that. So we both had a deep surrender and devotion and offering these bodies to be vessels.
Beautiful. So, could you tell me what was the one impactful life experience together that motivated you towards the sacred work that you do together today?
I think it really started, like Alex said, we met in a meditation retreat, and then I invited her for a walk, and we had a nice talk. Then a second walk, and on the second walk, we did some gazing, just basically looking into each other's eyes in silence, and just really dropping in together really deeply. And it was like I saw something, and I think Alex must have seen or felt something too. It was like it's almost like it was revealed in that moment that we were meant to be together. Just kind of in a flash, something was revealed or seen or known.
Beautiful. Sounds so romantic
Mm.
in a spiritual kind of way.
Romance is very spiritual, divine romance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and
absolutely
then
beautiful.
and then he asked me to co-lead the meditations with him, and so I did, and it was amazingly easy. It was just an easy flow between us, and I've never had that experience before, teaching with anyone else. It was just we could just feel. I think we could just feel each other, and uh, and there's just lots of space for each other to be and fully who we are, and so it even it's never been different than that. It's like it always just flows. It always just opens, and it includes, and there's room for our own personal growth and expansion, and it seems like it just gets deeper all the time.
So, Andrew, I'm really curious, where did the inspiration come for you to invite Alex to co-lead your meditations?
Well, it certainly came from my heart. I don't know what more there is to say than that.
Beautiful. So, could you tell us a little bit more about the retreats that you co-lead together?
Sure. I've been leading retreats in Shasta. I guess I did a couple in the 80s before I moved here, then full time since I moved here in 2006. And I'd often, for the longer retreats, like to have a co-leader. I started doing week-long retreats every year in 2011. And I had various co-leaders, and it was always good. But then when I started co-leading with Alex, we actually met at the end of 2018. So we started co-leading in 2019. Yeah, there was just something that came through beyond what had come through with the other co-leaders. Just a real deep synergy of the male and female. And of course, synergy means 1 plus 1 equals more than two. Maybe it's 1 plus 1 equals 10. Maybe it's 1 plus 1 equals 100. Maybe it's 1 plus 1 equals infinity. But, that synergy, and I think that just elevates everything. And I think, so much of the suffering on this planet has been because of conflict between male and female. A lot of it male dominance and, male ego needing to control. And I think when a male and a female come together and, they don't even have to do anything in public, even just live a simple life together in mutual surrender and devotion and flow together, that's a gift to the planet. And if those two are moved, like we're moved to teach or offer retreats or coaching together, it's a gift to whoever comes. Since, I mean, first of all, they're receiving the gifts of the mountain, which are profound and life changing, since the mountain is this field of pure love or pure happiness. And second, I think there's a synergy between that transmission of the one God, the one love through the mountain, and the transmission coming through two forms. So it's kind of the three of us together, Alex, the mountain, and I. And the mountain, of course, is the silent partner, just silently showering everyone with that grace and energy. And Alex and I, we like to be in silence. We do a lot of walking and a lot of silent meditations. But we're also invited to be vessels for love to speak, since, for humans, for most humans, it's helpful to have some words. They, it helps the integration. And there's a transmission that comes through the words when we let love speak through the two of us. Anything you want to add, sweetie?
Mm. Yeah, I think there's, also, there's the mountain, and then, God is the focal point for both of us. We want to live in that presence and come from that presence and be embodied in that presence. And for both of us, that's where we lean. That's where we lean the most into. So there's not the ego conflicts, because we're not leaning in there. We're leaning into that loving presence that is the substance, the real substance of everything.
Beautiful. So, could you tell us a little bit more about the retreats that you are co-leading together and all the details?
Sure. Well, first of all, we offer private retreats all year round. And the private retreats, sometimes it's one-on-one, sometimes it's a couple or two or three friends, or even 8 or 10 or 15 friends, or a spiritual group, community, it's all kinds of combinations. And besides the private retreats, we offer two main group retreats.
And one of them is a 3-day retreat. So for people who don't have a whole, huge amount of time, we have a 3-day, so it's a long weekend retreat. And then we also have a week-long retreat. And Andrew can tell you more about that.
Yeah, so the week long is for people who are really ready to take a deep dive. I mean, 3 days is great, and 3 days is totally worth doing. But if you are able to carve out the time to take a full week, I'd say it's more integrated, because you have a whole week to ground yourself in living in the present. I mean, that's one very simple way to look at it is.
And then also you have a week of just being in this sacred atmosphere, on really living and being on the sacred mountain, and going with us to the most special sacred sites on the mountain, where there's an amplified sense of divine presence. And those are not in the tour guide books. Those are the ones that retreat leaders know. So we take our groups there, and they're both beautiful and they are sanctified areas. So really, really amazing for meditating there, for doing internal processes and meditations. Really extraordinary. Constantly get good feedback about that.
Yeah, so we've got an easy job, since the mountain is giving these incredible gifts, of grace and light and spiritual transmission every moment. And so Alex and I are always clear that the mountain's the star of the show. We're supporting cast. And so the week-long retreat, which is in June, is just a deep immersion for people who really want to dive deep and live it. And the 3-day retreat is also very powerful. I mean, sometimes it honestly seems like we do the 3-day retreat in July, usually after the week long. And last year it seemed like it was almost even more powerful. Somehow the people there and the energy on the mountain, it was very transformative. And, we see people in the beginning, they may be in a lot of fear or closed down or carrying a lot of pain and trauma. And by the end, they're really glowing. Since we guide them through a journey, the first part of the journey is doing a reset, cleaning out all the gunk, and can be some very deep releasing. And we've got some processes that are very powerful for that and are very supported. We often go to the water places where there's an energy that helps move things through. There's a sacred spring we love, there's a magical waterfall, and there's a pristine alpine lake. And all three of those places really help accelerate and deepen the cleansing. And then the heart of the retreat is just coming deep into the present.
And people come back. We have many repeat retreat participants. They come back again and again to go through this, to be in this sacred atmosphere and to be, just to clear the decks and have the time, the space, and the openness to really reconnect and reunite with that soulful, living presence of love that's inside each of us.
Yeah.
Sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, I was going to say then the final part of the retreat is after everyone's made that reconnection with love and really knowing themselves as love, as the one love. Then how do you live it? Everybody just envisioning what's the highest vision of how love can express through this human form when I come back home. And then looking at, okay, what simple, doable steps can I take to move into that vision and also to nurture the gifts and keep the awareness that the mountain has activated to keep it alive. How have you done with that, Anne? So it's been 2 months since your trip. Do you feel like you've been able to keep some of the gifts of the mountain alive inside
Really,
of you?
yes, definitely. It's in my heart, and I mean, I would say one of the most important things. Let's see, because when I came there, I came with an intention, and because I had a question, and it was around business. It was because I mean like pure devotion for business. I mean, long story short, I've done well in business if I was impressing or proving myself. That was the old fuel. And I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do it because I want to show up for myself. And that's where, there was a little bit of a hesitation around that regard. And now it's just this full blown knowledge, and it's in the heart, that it's like whenever there's something that doesn't resonate with me, then I got to listen to my body. That's what's coming up for me. And because in the past I would stay longer in places or in situations where I really didn't want to be there anymore, but I was trying to be polite or just trying to be kind, but then I was being polite to them, but I wasn't being polite to myself. So I would say that, like, just really honoring, the heart. I mean, that's really coming through for me until now. So thank you, Andrew. It's really, really beautiful, that I to get that transmission and to keep carrying that. And yes, definitely the spirit of the mountain. It's like really, really alive in my heart. And I loved the sacred tour so much. I brought my son. Whenever there's something special, it's like, oh my God, you got to do this. Would you like to come? And he did. He agreed. So, he was really open to it. And I asked him, like, how was it for him? And it's the same. So
Wow.
We have the divine guidance inside always guiding us, and we are able to listen, to really like tune in and listen, because sometimes it's, I mean, depending on people or what's going on in the environment or in life, maybe you can't really hear, or maybe you hear it, but then you second guess yourself. And I don't, I haven't had that ever since. So that's
Wow.
what's come through for me. It's always that inner knowing, and it's certain. And I listen to it and act on that. So
Beautiful. That's so great that you took that away and you've kept it.
you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, but then there's something else that I could add to this, but there's also because I'm already in it, then I'll say let's go with that. Tell us a little bit more about the free meditation that you have every third Thursday. Is that right? Third
That's
Thursday
right.
of the month.
Yeah,
Tell us
third
a little bit
Thursday.
more about that, because then that's something that the listeners can come to, if they really resonate with everything that you're saying, and then they can have that felt experience with both of you.
Yeah, so it's our meditation is on the third Thursday, as you mentioned. It's at 6 p.m. And we meditate for about a half an hour together, and it's a little bit of it is guided, but then we're just in silence together for about half an hour. And then we'll take questions about meditation, or if people have questions about our retreats during the year, or any other kind of question, we're welcome to ask it. And so then the rest of the time together is that question and answer, and just being together. You want to add something?
Sure. Yeah, really the intention of the meditations is to offer people an opportunity to connect with Mount Shasta and ultimately with themselves. Since to me, I mean, the bottom line is coming home to yourself, knowing who I am, and not just a mental knowing, but a heart knowing and an embodied knowing of who I am. And Mount Shasta's job is to transmit that and reflect that.
And our home is on the base of Mount Shasta. So the emanation, there's definitely a feeling of the emanation of the Mount Shasta sacred energy that comes through in the meditation. And that's what really anchors the silence and the presence and the experience for everyone who tunes in.
Yeah, so the meditation is really maybe for two categories of people. First, well, certainly anybody who's interested in knowing themselves deeper, or even people who have already had a lot of awakening, but in their busy lives enjoy the chance just to drop in. And, it's just a deep dropping in. And the way we guide the meditation is not all just talking about Mount Shasta. It's mostly actually just guiding people into themselves. So it's for those people, it's for anyone who's been called but hasn't come, or people who've been called and have come and want to refresh the connection.
Beautiful. And so the link is going to be in the notes, and it's over Zoom, and it's a free meditation. So um, you everyone is invited to come and have that experience, and to go deeper and get to know yourselves, or everything else that they mentioned, and just have that their own experience. So that is, wait, let's see, is that coming up next week? Is that right?
Right.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. February and March, it'll be the 19th, both months, because
There you go.
just about always the third Thursday at 6 o'clock,
There we
California,
go.
9 o'clock East Coast. And I think it ends up being a good time, like in Australia too. It's like 10 the next morning or something. So it's a pretty convenient time for people in some of those time zones to the west too.
We do have people who call in from all over the world, so
Yeah.
Yes.
or Zoom in, yeah.
And so everyone is invited. So everyone who's listening, if this has touched you in a way and you really resonate with it, then please come to the meditation next week. And the information is going to be in the notes. And yeah, I'll see you there because I go to that one too. So we'll
Wonderful.
come together.
Beautiful.
Tell us more about the free gift that you have for the listeners, in addition to the already wonderful meditation that they already can have access to.
Sure. Well, we've done a professionally produced recorded meditation along with our friend and colleague Anton Miserak, who's very successful New Age musician and producer. So we've got some of his wonderful music in the background and our words, and his studio is right on the mountain, so it's recorded on the mountain. So we're going to offer a free meditation. I think it'll be around 20 minutes. And if people want that, probably the simplest way is just email me at Andrew at mountshasta-retreat.net. That's Mount is spelled out. Andrew at Mount spelled out Shasta Retreat. And make sure you get .net.
And so I would say that the easiest way for Andrew to know that it was from this podcast and just mention this episode, that let's say you could put Serving Love Together podcast episode in the subject or something
Sure.
along those lines, so that
Perfect.
Andrew knows that that's where you found the information. And so his email is also going to be in the notes for you to easily access that. And everything about them is also going to be in the notes, including their websites for more information about their retreats and also their other services that they also do separately and together.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
So the 3-day retreat is called the Mount Shasta Freedom Retreat, and that's July 10 to 12 of this year, 2026. And so for those of us in the US, it's after or around the July 4th, Independence Day, right? It's after.
Yes, after.
It would be the
Yes.
weekend after.
The weekend after, so then you can come up for Independence Day, and then you could stay and have the extra freedom that you can get from that. So it's just coming to me. So there's like a double freedom there. There's the independence freedom that everyone celebrates, and then after that, then you can go a little bit deeper and then have the spiritual and freedom in the heart. So that's a really beautiful connection. So wow, that's a really wonderful day to have it. And then the other one is going to be the Mount Shasta Spiritual Adventure Retreat, which is in June. So it's the month before. So it's during the beginning of the summer. So that's June 7th to 13th. And that information is also in the notes. But one thing that I wanted to also bring forward is that I heard them mention at the beginning is that they do personal, private retreats. So does that depend? Could you tell us a little bit more about that? So is it actually customized to whatever a person would like to receive, or like whatever intention that person has? Or how do they contact you? Or tell us all the juicy details about it, on how that can come about.
Sure. People contact me mostly through the internet, or they get referrals from friends, or some of the people own hotels here think well of our work, so they recommend us. And then it's totally customized, first as far as length. Some people can only get away for one day, or that's all that's in their budget. Some people do 3 days. It's usually 2 or 3 days, sometimes one day.
And sometimes it's a half a day.
Yes, yeah, it's true. Sometimes only half a day. And then the main way it's customized is based on their intentions. I always like to tell my clients, your intentions are my roadmap. I navigate towards your intentions. So when we first get together, really have a good talk. What are you here for? I mean, bottom line, what is it in your heart that called you to come to Mount Shasta? And in some cases, went to a lot of trouble to travel a long distance. But even if you're only coming from the Bay Area and it's just getting your car and zip 4 hours, it's still you're coming here rather than Tahoe or rather than Las Vegas, because there's something you want, that you feel the mountain is the place you can find it. So I just listen carefully while people talk about intentions, And then we go to places best supporting those intentions and really do my best to help people open to receive what they came for.
Yeah, it's really guided by what's in their heart. You
Mm.
know, there's a pull. There's obviously a pull because they're going to some trouble to get here. You know, Northern California, we're 70 miles from the Oregon border, so we're really far north. And they're coming here because they feel the call, they feel pulled, they feel the importance of really getting to the bottom of whatever the issue is or unsettledness that's going on inside, or the realization that they're longing for, that divine call that pushes this life forward if we have the openness for it.
Mm.
Beautiful. So, if people were interested in booking the private retreat or exploring that further, is it possible to get both of you, or is it, yeah? Is
Yeah.
that is that an
Yeah.
option? Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we co-lead, especially for couples, but we're definitely available to that for individuals also.
And sometimes someone just wants to be with Andrew, sometimes they just want to be with me. So, yeah.
Okay. Or
Yeah.
maybe there would be, if it was me and if I did a private retreat, I'd want both of you.
Oh,
We'll
thank you for
look
that.
forward to it, Anne.
Okay.
Forward to it.
It sounds good. All right.
Lovely.
So, could you tell us what is the one spiritual quality that you connect with the most and why?
Hmm. Well, for me, it's divine love, and part of the reason for that is because of a transmission I had when I was in India from Anandamayi Ma, and uh, you know, she'd been dead a long time, but nevertheless, I received this transmission from her, and it was it was life-changing. And when I left the ashram where I had received this or had this experience, I came back to where I was staying and I called Andrew over the phone, and he could feel the transmission of love over the phone. And that has been the animating force in this life, to live to be open to that divine love, to be a vehicle for that divine love in my life is really, it's sort of any other intentions or desires I may have had leading up to that have been supplanted by that desire to just live in this world as a vehicle of love for myself, for others, you know, in the work I do.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful qualities of God, and I really value truth. I value freedom. I value grace, which is so wonderful. But it's really coming to me now to highlight joy. And so I think joy is just kind of a keynote for me. And ultimately, I think joy comes from being in the present. That when I really come into the present, that's where the presence is, and that's where the full joy of life is. So yeah, I just really enjoy just being present and really experiencing the power of God, you know, moving through the wind, blowing the leaves of the trees, God shining through the sun, God radiating pure love through the mountain, and God coming through this form to express, and of course, God coming through the Alex form. So just the joy of experiencing God in form.
Beautiful. And I just had something just came up for me to ask you, Andrew. When I first asked you about, you know, that sacred, how that sacred came through for you for the first time, you mentioned it was during a tennis match, and it was the I am. Did that, how did that come about? Because, you know, it's directly correlated with the joy that you're describing right now. So could you tell us how that came about? Was it just instantaneous, or I mean, was it a divine download, or
Yeah, well, I think the first thing was just really feeling a level of joy and grace that I hadn't felt before in the tennis court. And my mentor, Tim Galway, who wrote The Inner Game of Tennis, he had an exercise where the idea was to watch the ball closely the whole time. And every time the ball hit the ground, precisely when it hit the ground, say bounce. And then when you hit your racket, say hit. And I changed that to I am. Since you can say something neutral like bounce hit, still good. It's a great concentration exercise. But if you say I am, it's not only a concentration exercise, but it's awakening. It's calling your presence. Just like if I wanted to call you, I would say Anne, and you'd come here. And it goes back to the Bible, to the burning bush with Moses. Moses asked God, "What's your name?" And God said, "I am that I am." So you could say I am is the name for God. It's not, it's a name for God. Of course, different people around the world call God by many names. So when you're saying I am, you're calling that God presence, which ultimately is your own presence here into your body. And so it's not only giving you great concentration on the ball, but it's really bringing you into being fully present, which is where the joy is. And also where the best performance is, as it happens.
Beautiful. And so it sounds like, the I am experience that you're so viscerally explaining did that come to you even before the tennis match? Is that right?
No, that was later. And some of you viewers may know that the book which really made Mount Shasta famous in the modern world was called Unveiled Mysteries. It came out almost 100 years ago, right around 1930. And there's a story of a man named Godfrey Ray King who was hiking on the mountain and he met Ascended Master Saint Germain. And Saint Germain gave him some teachings. And the core teaching was God is here. That you don't have to go through the priest, which everybody thought you had to do then. You can just go direct since God is in your heart. And ultimately, you realize your oneness with God. And that's I am.
And so you knew this because in the beginning you were mentioning that you have visited Mount Shasta in the past. So is that when you came across this information? Is that right? When you were like
Yeah, I think right around the time in the late 70s when I visited Mount Shasta, I discovered those books. They're called the Green Books. There's a whole series. And I used to go on the mountain, take a little backpacker's edition of one of the books, and just digest it, imbibe it while I was in one of the most beautiful, powerful meadows on the mountain. And so I felt like, with the grace of the mountain and kind of inspired by that transmission through those books too, I was able to receive deeply the presence into my heart, or awaken the presence that was already in my heart, might be a better way to say it.
beautiful. And I really love how you mention the grace of the mountain because I experienced that when I went to Mount Shasta. And so I'm just moved to ask both of you, just as how I asked about, what was that spiritual quality that you connected with the most. So what is it exactly about Mount Shasta that you connect with the most and why?
Well, I think for me, and like Andrew said, there's there's this presence of God in the mountain. There's this presence of that sacred emanation, and it just anchors and emanates that. I mean, 5 miles down the freeway, when you can feel that you're entering the force field of the mountain, and it is that presence that holds the sacred, and it just, yeah, that's just what it is for me.
Yeah, the same word, presence, that Alex used. The mountain has a presence, divine presence that reflects and amplifies that presence in the hearts of everyone who comes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrew and Alex, for being here today. And thank you for sharing all your wisdom. Just thank you for your presence. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the sacred wisdom. I mean, I'm receiving the transmission along with the energy. It's really like landing and coming home. And I hope that the listeners that are listening to this episode today feel the same way. So just wanted to thank both of you for being here and for sharing and for being who you are. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you, Anne, for putting this program out there, because it's the the emanation of the mountain, the sacredness that will come through, and in that emanation there is transformation, there is opening, there is the amplification of the love and the God presence in each of us, and that's what it's all about for us.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. It's been a pleasure to chat with you this morning. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today in this sacred space. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If what you heard resonated with you today, please share this podcast with someone who really needs to hear this truth, and follow me today for more groundbreaking interviews. Together, let's remember who we truly are, come home to love and to the divine that has always been present in our hearts, and heal the world.